on World this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Right before we dive into our segment, we are going to be talking about how the teenagers of the world are facing a bit of a conundrum in regards of their social media usage. First it was Australia, then it was the United Kingdom, and now it is France who is also implementing a social media ban. So let's get into the news. France, his parliament has approved a ban on social media for children under 15 following Australia's lead in restricting young people access to online platforms. President Emmanuel Macron called the move a major step forward, saying France is leading Europe in protecting children and young people. And this is how France wants to extend its protection upon its teenagers, because you never know the kind of content teenagers could be consuming on social media, and the sleep patterns, the insomnia, the body dysmorphia, the depression. So make sure that you spend time outdoors and make sure to plan accordingly.
I think the Australian government or the government of the United Kingdom or the government of France really need to ask all of those kids or children back home what they think about their government after the social media ban. Certainly the kids might not be happy, but this is for the well-being of their kids. When we speak about well-being, I think there's quite a lot that we really need to speak about. You know, we've spoken about Pakistan's diplomatic ascent. We've spoken about the relationship Pakistan enjoys with all the major superpowers, how Pakistan, alhamdulillah, now actually stands tall. And for all of those major decisions need to be taken by the global leadership, Pakistan is included in them. But that's not it. I think when we speak about well-being at the front of automation, at the front of artificial intelligence, at the front of all of this technology, Pakistan really needs to make sure that they play their role. And such is an example, ladies and gentlemen, of the Indus robotics exhibition which actually took place, because the Honorable Prime Minister himself attended the Indus RAS Robotics and Autonomous Systems Expo 2026 on Wednesday, reaffirming Pakistan's commitment to emerging technologies and indigenous innovations. Now, when you see the visuals, it looks like as if it was something from a sci-fi film. To speak further more about it, how good Pakistan is doing, and certainly I think I'm going to take you back to May 2025 debacle that we had against India. Marka hai, Pakistan actually had a stunning victory. It was because of the fact that not just the physical fronts were actually guarded by our one of the finest armed forces, but even the cyber fronts, ladies and gentlemen. And that's exactly what the Honorable Prime Minister said about the Chief of Defence Forces, Field Marshal Mr. Syed Asim Munir, that they used it absolutely perfectly well. To speak further more about it, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be the chairman and CAI NAST, who happens to be Professor Dr. Yasar Ayaz, one of the youngest chairmen that I've ever seen or ever met. Such stunning, amazing personality. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm doing pretty well. What about you?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. So it was an honor for me to do the inaugural session of the Indus AI Week first, where a lot of people were traveling to Pakistan, and then we spoke about artificial intelligence projects and whatnot. And now we see another feather in the cap, and we're calling it the Indus Robotics and Autonomous Systems Expo. And it's a two-day expo. Yesterday the Honorable Prime Minister was there. What do you feel about it? What do you think about it? And then we'll move on from there.
I think it's a very timely step, and it's a very necessary step for Pakistan to to move up in this area. And these days, there's no denying the ever re-emerging importance of robotics around the world. And the key word of autonomous systems, the RAS Expo, the autonomous systems, is very important here, because robotics as such, its era, actually the first revolution of robotics started in the year 2000, when it was the third industrial revolution actually. The next age was the age of AI first, and now this age, the fifth industrial revolution, has brought robotics and AI together to make autonomous systems and to put, the new word people are sounding is embodied AI. So how robots can, for example, understand the real world, how they can feel, for example, that there is a cup here and they can touch the cup or something else, and the tactile sensation and everything that goes into it. And we see prominent companies like NVIDIA, Tesla, and so many others putting out their own models of robotics, which are very new and very different from what we've seen around the world
That
before.
does sound very interesting, because the things we saw growing up in movies like Terminator, Big Hero 6, it's like the robots coming to life and interacting with us, and hopefully they'll stay nice with us. So now let's speak about how Pakistan has moved on to about 60% indigenous developed artificial intelligence or drones or technology. How important is it that it is indigenously made?
It is very, very important. And you see, there are several layers. When it comes to designing of robots, there are several layers. So the first and the most essential component is, the sensing and the actuation and the cognition. These three components together with mechanical systems come together to make a robot. So when we say that we are indigenous in robotics, we mean that we have to be, completely independent of others in these 4 domains.
Okay.
So for example, when it comes to sensors, most of the complex sensors like LiDARs, for example, or cameras, for example, are not really, designed or developed in Pakistan. Maybe some of them may be manufactured in Pakistan, maybe like the design is coming from somewhere and we are manufacturing it, but we need to concentrate on these specific industries. The industries which are easier to capture, for example, actuators, like motors for instance, or hydraulics for instance. So for instance, when I put together one of my first robots back in the year 2001, I think 2001 and 2002, which was still I think one of the heaviest weightlifting robots of Pakistan. It was made for Pakistan Ordnance Factories, and this was like something which supplied materials from, the supply line over to another, passed to another robot which was doing manufacturing. So for that we designed even the hydraulic manufacture, the actuating systems by ourselves.
Like in an
in the
automobile industry.
In the automobile industry, yes indeed. Automobile is one of those industries which is completely automated with robots doing all the manufacturing. And the reason why robots are put there is precision in manufacturing.
True.
So the quality of the produce that comes out, if the industry is running on robotics, is much higher compared to,
Exactly, and we certainly want it safe, which is why it really needs to be indigenous and autonomous as well. Now I've got 3 very important questions, and you have to share your opinion on that, because that's exactly what the Honorable Prime Minister said. Number 1, he said that there needs to be a clear regulatory ethical framework for this indigenous automation. What do you think about it?
So I think that UNESCO has already come together and they have actually introduced the AI ethics bill, or the AI ethics. First it was a standard setting instrument, and now there is an advisory document which encompasses all the systems which are going to be autonomous. So like, essentially the behavior of a robot is also governed by AI, because the real system in the robot, which is defining what the robot will or will not do, is artificial intelligence. So it's definitely most important. And if you look at the universities around the world, in the US and others, the one subject that they don't skip to any, like you could say even the specialization like materials or mechanical, or let's say fashion design or law, who are now getting into robotics or medical science, that is the ethics, right? So this is the most important subject. So at NCI, some of our staff is actually involved in teaching these courses of ethics even at the international level. We like our team is actually part of the training courses which are offered in the US, in Europe, and they are actually teaching there, not just learning from there anymore.
Wonderful. So the second point is that the autonomous systems really need to be safe, secure, and transparent. And where are we on this?
So like robotics, when people started working on robotics, there are 3 laws of robotics which essentially govern the key aspects, the core aspects of safety. And then as we move forward, the current direction of robots, for example, the new kind of robots are being called cobots. So cobots are the kind of robots which can coexist with humans and share the space with humans. So for instance, the conventional robot, if it is moving somewhere and a human's hand, for example, comes in the middle, it may not detect that there is a human's hand. But now there are regulations and there are specific ways to design robots, not just to detect, for example, that there is a hand nearby, but if it touches something, how it must react to it. So like these modern systems we also have in
so the
National Center for AI too.
Or inhabit our planet.
Yes,
and one last point, which obviously is of utmost importance, and that is that the Honorable Prime Minister has actually announced that there will be a venture fund for $20 million. Do you think $20 million in 2026 is enough, or do you think that it needs to get better?
In terms of getting, at a good leadership level in the world, I don't think it's enough at all. Especially for an expensive technology like robotics, which require, in the beginning, for example, just check the price of one Velodyne 360 degrees LiDAR. That's a laser-based sensor that rotates around and capture images everywhere by, using laser waves. And it will take so much time until we can develop a prototype of, for example, just this sensor, which all the autonomous cars of today are using actually in the field. So for the beginning, we will need to import some of these sensors and maintain, because when students want to design reverse engineering, and the students have to put them together to make the robots. So these 2 things have to go on simultaneously. So for that, the robots have to have these parts available locally. Otherwise, every student, you know, who wants to buy this kind of thing cannot order it separately from abroad when they get to manufacturing this.
So you get to know what you're actually making and immersing in that experience to know what you're controlling. And speaking about controlling things, this expo was focused on the defense innovations as well, but do you think it can be integrated in everyday lives like agriculture, climate change and public safety?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, it's working in that.
Yeah, and defense is of course one of the very critical sectors,
Okay.
because the future of warfare is not that the humans will be going into to fight wars. It will be the robots.
Yeah, the drones and everything.
And for agriculture, for example, the drones are being used in agriculture too. Another technology which is coming together with it is IoT. So IoT has to be closely integrated, because robots will not go everywhere by themselves and do sensing one step by one step. They are superior to humans in the sense that they will get sensing from all over the sensors which are distributed in the environment. For example, it can know that a car is passing somewhere on the road and the drone is somewhere else, but it can see from the traffic camera and then rush over to that area to do the intervention. So in this sense they are superior, but in other senses there are limitations.
Exactly.
So
Well, that's wonderful.
sounds
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Yasar Ayaz, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation. We said it looks like as if our defense, not just that, I think AI, our indigenous automation is actually on the right track, thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister. Madam Shahzad Fatima was there as well, alongside the Chief of Defense Forces. And it was the Indus AI Week, and it's the vision that we're making sure will be translated into real actions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for
Wonderful
inviting me.
conversation
Always a pleasure
with you.
Thank you.
Likewise, and for people who are out there, ladies and gentlemen, we're heading out towards a short break.